Welcome to cooking cheap, easy, and tasty meals. I decided I would like to make some brown bread today. I'm going to start by getting the flour. There are lots of ways you can scoop flour, but I'm going to try and not compress it, so I'm going to put the flour in my measuring cup, and then I'm going to make sure it's level. And then we get 3 cups whole wheat flour. To that, we're going to add a tablespoon of instant yeast, but either yeast should work. So we're going to add a tablespoon. And that's a lot of yeast, but it's whole wheat flour and we want it to rise fast. If I was going to do it overnight, I would probably only put 1 teaspoon of yeast in, and I would let it rise for a long time, but we want this done fairly quickly. Now, to this, we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. Now, some people are worried about if you add the salt and yeast at the same time. I don't think it's near as big an issue as some people make of it. But do be aware, I wouldn't put them on top of each other and cover them with water. Now I'm going to add to this my preference, which is sunflower oil. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of sunflower oil. I just like the lightness of the taste, the flavor. The other thing that does, which is advantageous, is if you use honey or molasses, when you cover that measuring cup with oil, and then you put the molasses or honey into the measuring cup, it should come out a lot easier. That stuck a little more than I anticipated it would. But if you notice, it poured almost completely out of the cup with no problem. You could use honey, you could probably use golden syrup, but the reason I want to use molasses, I want a really rich brown bread, and molasses will really increase the flavor profile pretty dramatically. In case you're interested, I'm using Steen's molasses, which is made in Abbeville, Louisiana, and it's been around. Everybody I know uses this and has been using it when they use molasses. I'm sure there are other kinds of molasses that would be just fine, but this is the old favorite in this part of the country. All right, now the last thing we need to add is some warm water. So I'm going to add 1 1/4 cups of warm water. So I'm going to get the water warm out of the faucet. 1 cup. And then all I need is another 1/4 cup. You don't want it too hot or it'll kill the yeast, but you want it warm so it'll rise quickly. Because what we're trying to do is get a fairly quick loaf of bread out of this within a few hours. The next step will be to mix up the dough. So we're going to stir all this together until a nice dough forms. Whole wheat bread is a little more of an effort to make because the wheat absorbs the water as well. Or at least that's the way it's always struck me, that it just takes more effort, more liquid to get it just to the point you want. All right, that's pretty good. Not bad. Let's turn it over, get the other side. Okay, now, that's not bad. I'm going to work it with my hands for a minute and make sure I get all the flour moistened. Now, I'm going to put a little flour out, and I'm going to knead this dough. Now, if you make a no-knead bread, you're letting time take the place of the kneading. And I am by no means an expert at kneading. Lots of people are better at kneading than I am. I usually just work the dough, roll it in and out. I've seen people who make bread more regular than me, and they seem to have a knack for rolling this. It takes a little effort. You can smell the molasses. It's funny. It really affects the aroma of the dough, but you can watch it and the dough gets smoother and more elastic as you work it. I'm running out of flour, so I'm going to need a little more so it won't start sticking. This has come together pretty well. I'm going to put a little oil in the bottom, and I'm going to put the dough in there. And I'm going to roll it around and make sure it's coated with oil all over. So that'll help keep it from drying out. And I'm going to cover it and let it sit for an hour, or at least until it doubles in volume. Let's cover it and see what happens. Punch it down. Okay, and I've got a prepared loaf pan. I sprayed it and then I put a piece of parchment paper in it. I'm going to take this and shape it a little bit and then put it in here and let it rise. Try and get it even in the pan. Cover it back up with the plastic wrap. Didn't actually get that very even, did I? Oh, that's what's wrong. It just needs to be pulled up. All right, now put the plastic wrap over and let it rise until it's over the top of the pan. The bread has reached the top of the pan, so I'm going to stick this in a 375-degree oven for about half an hour. And I'm going to turn it in about 15 minutes. I'm going to turn it over. I'm picking it out of the oven. We'll check the internal temperature. It's at 195, so that should be just right. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out of the dish and leave it here to cool, and we'll cut it later. Smells good. Pretty loaf. This bread took a little bit longer. It took 45 minutes. I'm sure it had something to do with my oven, but you'll notice the top is dark, which is fine. If you don't like it this dark, put it in and let it have foil on top of it for the last 15 minutes, and that'll keep it from getting as dark. However, it doesn't affect the flavor. It's not burned. So we're going to cut the bread. Let's take a look. Okay, it's a really nice crumb. The bread is moist. It has a little bounce to it. I think it'll make great sandwich bread. It'll toast well. Let's take a look. Looks really good. Now this is a whole wheat brown bread with molasses as the sweetener. It makes a nice bread that should be good for sandwiches. That should be it. And I'm going to try toasting it and making sandwiches, and it should be excellent for that. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and give us a like. Thank you.